This study was undertaken to help develop an understanding of what was useful in their experience of counselling for women who have suffered early pregnancy loss. This research investigates how counselling is perceived by women who have suffered miscarriage. It was my intention to draw on the information obtained to improve counselling practice within the area of counselling following early pregnancy loss. Qualitative in-depth interviews were conducted with 7 participants who had suffered loss. The study aimed to explore counselling from a woman's point of view in an effort to understand how counselling was perceived. The women who took part in the study had received counselling support. Even though 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage, there were no studies which examined the client's perception of counselling following their miscarriage. And few other studies examined the client's perception of counselling, even in general terms. Miscarriage happens to thousands of women each year in Scotland. And in Scotland itself there were 5,635 miscarriages in 2005. The latest figures today, in 2009, or the most recent figures, show that there were 5,946 miscarriages in Scotland, a slight increase. There have been studies from the client's perspective which examine the client's perception of counselling, such as Lambert in 2004, and those studies which examine the client's experience of counselling, for instance Rogers in 2002. However, there appears to be a gap in the current knowledge with regard to the client's perception of counselling within specific groups such as women who have suffered miscarriage. Although there is a considerable amount of miscarriage information available on the internet, the validity of some of that information remains questionable. There is also little information on the consequences of a DIY approach in the emotional management of early pregnancy loss through website forums. Studies such as Kupka in 2003, Abund and others have shown that by means of client feedback, counselling helps and supports those individuals under pressure. And there are also the studies that show that there is pressure on those who have suffered miscarriage. However, there's been no study which explicitly examines the response of miscarriage sufferers to counselling. The literature explicitly studies the effects of friends and family and medical services in a way that implicitly excludes formal counselling. This is a gap which is hoped will be bridged by the present study of women's perceptions of counselling following miscarriage. The client's view in research is very important in the development of current practice. This is significant in this study, and it attempts to build on what's already known and take into account what's uncovered through this miscarriage counselling investigation. The main benefit of the study will be in hearing the perceptions of what is helpful and unhelpful to this group of clients in counselling. The research used qualitative method of investigation. The study used semi-structured interviews to draw together an in-depth understanding of women's perception of counselling, while at the same time gave the participants freedom to express their views. A qualitative approach to the research was chosen to ensure that the client's views were heard. The research was about the view of the participant himself and allowed the participants' perceptions of counselling to be heard. The participants were given a central role in the research, and the methodological aims of the research fitted well with the person-centred philosophy and related well with the thematic approach to the analysis of the interview transcripts and exploring participants' beliefs, perceptions and interpretation of the counselling experience. The regularity of the use of qualitative studies within the field of miscarriage reinforced my decision to conduct qualitative research. In conducting this research into women's perceptions of counselling following miscarriage, I had 2 methodological aims: understanding the client's world from their point of view and interview the quality of the researcher and the participant. These aims match the person-centred research viewpoint. Person-centred research, according to Mearns and MacLeod, advise 5 guiding principles in conducting this type of research: researcher and participant equality, empathetic understanding of the participant's world. The research journey is understood as a process that's not outcome-based. The researcher is congruent with the participant. Study participants preferred counsellors to have genuine knowledge of miscarriage, which was more than just basic surface knowledge. These results showed that the majority of the clients appreciated more central points, but were less aware of skills like listening and non-judgment in their counselling sessions. Conversely, these are points that are very important to counsellors during their practice. This spider diagram allows graphic representation of responses to a questionnaire across numerous variables. The diagram shows an analysis of the 7 interviews. A perfect agreement in all cases and across all categories would result in a symmetrical thick blue line around the outside of the diagram. That irregular result shapes requires some interpretation and explanation. Clarified issues. This is the highest rated and therefore touches on the outer edge of the diagram, as all participants agreed that counselling clarified the issues for them. This study shows that the need to clarify issues was an important factor. Participants are unclear and uncertain when they first begin counselling as to their own thoughts and feelings about their loss, as they clearly conflict with the ideas that others have. The client and counsellor relationship is one which offers the client support through the core conditions such as empathy and understanding, and score highly with acceptance closely behind. The significance of this is that within the other helping relationships, participants are not offered these conditions and noticeably state this during their interviews. Knowledge is rated at a 5. This is a high score, which identifies the client need to understand their loss in a way which helps them to accept what has happened to them, or in some cases give an explanation as to why the pregnancy has ended in this way. It is more often the case that women are given no explanation and are left to make sense of it all for themselves. Investigation of a reason for early pregnancy loss and the subsequent tests, and which don't always result in a conclusive answer for the minor losses. Listening and non-judgmental are rated lower by the participants. This may be that they genuinely see both as less important, or it could be a jargon effect where the meaning to the client is not fully understood, is less important than it is to someone in the counselling fraternity, or that the skill was so well executed that it was invisible to the client. The table indicates what participants found helpful and unhelpful in their recovery from miscarriage. They found others' acceptance of their loss and addressing the loss helpful. The understanding and continued support offered through counselling and some others was perceived by the participants as helpful in their recovery. The unhelpful aspects highlighted in the table caused the participants the most upset and isolation. The participants were saddened by other people's lack of understanding and predominantly found the dismissal of their loss with regard to the baby's development quite hurtful. Support by friends and family was often described as being time limited and restricted, as well as being difficult at times due to the participants' level of upset. Platitudes expressed by friends and relatives such as "you'll have another baby" or "did you see that as a baby?" something that the participants found difficult to listen to and extremely unhelpful. Counselling was described by the participants as offering women an unrestricted space to freely address their anxieties and fears in a well-supported and non-judgmental relationship. Counselling provided understanding, freedom and acknowledgement of their loss. This was particularly helpful in their recovery, while people's dismissal and judgment of their type of loss was not. The medical model focuses on the symptoms of the individual as a patient. The patient is seen as sick and unwell. The participant's loss was very often dismissed by others. Failure to recognise early pregnancy loss as a bereavement left women feeling isolated and confused. Counselling was perceived as helpful. Current medical assessment of anxiety following miscarriage fails to address the practical needs of this group. The medical model diagram shows people being passed from one place to another. It shows the process as a circular one, whereas the medical profession tends to see this more of a linear process. It is important to understand that during this process the patient receives treatment, in some cases emergency treatment, in some cases this is required. Participants in the study report generally being offered good quality care of the physical aspects of miscarriage with very little emotional response to their loss. One woman said, "You get all the physical attention at the hospital, but the emotional component is just not addressed." Counselling is not seen as part of the treatment. Participants come to counselling with skewed views about what counselling is, initially expecting to be given a time slot, to be offered information and advice, and to be asked questions. Instead, participants report being given time and attention and express mainly satisfying feelings of their counselling experience. Participants perceive counselling as being part of a more complete healing process. The study has found participants' overall perceptions of counselling to be a helpful and safe experience to mark the loss. The study revealed that counselling offered women an opportunity to grieve and to explore the possible reasons for the loss. In some cases, counselling was perceived as a life-saving experience. The findings of this study reinforce the significance of specialised miscarriage counselling in meeting the individual's multiple needs. The provision of specialised counselling was found to play an important part in the recovery of women who had suffered such a traumatic loss. Women who lose a baby before delivery have little or no memories of their pregnancy, and that this can make the grieving process a much more complex one. As a result of their miscarriage, a positive test or a scan result may be the only memories that women have. The lack of tangible proof of their baby's existence can mean that women are judged failures by others and are denied the right to grieve. More encouragement and direction from friends, relatives and the medical profession for women to seek counselling at an early stage would be helpful in relieving women's distress and may alleviate years of anxiety and further unsupported losses suffered by some women before finally attending counselling. As there are no debriefing arrangements in place, or as a patient questionnaire revealed, 30% of women who had suffered early pregnancy loss are not offered any follow-up appointment or of any kind. In the study, participants perceived counselling as providing a safe place to freely explore their miscarriage experience alongside its related issues to meet the individual's needs. Counselling is not seen as neutral in its content by the participants. The commitment and contribution to the person through this helping relationship is seen by the participants in this study to play an important part in their recovery as individuals, and the efficiency of counselling and this research shows that counselling is perceived as enabling women to come to terms with their loss.